All right, ladies and gentlemen, so before I begin this video, make sure you guys hit the like button. Doesn't really take you guys that much time. Also, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, especially if you guys want more college football content, news, update, recruiting chatter. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. Also, follow me on my social media so, again, you guys can stay up to the dates. I will have those in a link below the description. Again, those are just options I'm just giving you. Yeah, let's hop straight into this video, guys. I wanted to talk to you guys just real quick about the Alabama Crimson Tide spring game. Just 3 key takeaways that I was able to take away from this game. And who knows, maybe we can apply it going into fall camp. Maybe the first game against the Miami Hurricanes was some good things, some bad things. Let's hop straight into this thing. So, first thing that I was able to see was that the defensive line was extremely dominant. We've been hearing about this for quite a while now, throughout the entire spring, that the defensive line was going to be the dominant force, or was going to be the primary reason why, if Alabama does make it to another national championship, or if they win another national championship, it would be because of the defensive line. Last year, the defensive line was kind of mediocre. Well, at least like the first couple of games, they were like okay at best, mediocre at best. But then ever since that Georgia game, the defensive line continued to grow and continue to get better. Their best interior defensive lineman by far was Christian Barmore. He was their best disruptor, their best pass rusher by far. I think maybe the second best was probably either Fadarian Mathis or it was Timothy Smith. It's not particularly a bad thing going into this year, because again, Justin Agbogbe, you look at guys like LeBron Ray, who was hurt all year. He's a guy that's going to be coming back, and he might be their best defensive lineman. Timothy Smith, like I just mentioned before, Byron Young, Jamil Burrows, a lot of those guys in that interior defensive line, those guys are all back. So all guys that were rotational players, all guys that had a significant amount of playing time, all of those guys are going to be back. And I feel like they were pretty impressive. I feel like they did a pretty good job for the most part of disrupting. I feel like they did a pretty good job of stuffing the run for the most part. I know people will look at the stat sheet and will say, well, Jace McKellen had this many stats and Ronald Williams had this many stats, but I feel like overall wise, the defensive line held up their own today. And I feel like, again, they were the better side compared to the offensive line. Matter of fact, it should be, because that's your most experienced unit. So I feel like the defensive line did a pretty decent job. As far as who was like the best player on that defensive line, I thought it was J.C. Latham. J.C. Latham is really an undersized interior defensive lineman who can play as a 1 technique, who as an underrated nose, but can definitely slide but definitely is a true 3 technique guy. Even a guy that can maybe, who knows, play off the edge, maybe based off his size. But he was very good. He was very, very explosive. He was very, very good in technique. I remember the one play against Terrence Ferguson, true freshman Terrence Ferguson. He used a swim move. To get over Terrence Ferguson, was able to really blow him off the line, and was able to make a play. J.C. Latham, I feel like, was the best defensive lineman today. I feel like him and Timothy Smith were the 2 best defensive linemen on your team. And again, that's good. More young players stepping up. It just creates more depth for your interior defensive line. I thought the second key takeaway that we were able to see today was the fact that Bryce Young looks like he's the better quarterback. Bryce Young looks like he's the guy. Again, we didn't see Jalen Milroe, and I heard that Jalen Milroe has had a decent spring. Well, he's a guy that was very, very raw, but he continues to progress. He continues to get better. But we didn't really see Jalen Milroe today. I know a lot of Alabama Crimson Tide fans are disappointed that Jalen Milroe didn't really get the opportunity to play. However, we did see we saw Braxter play, we saw Paul Tyson play, and then of course we saw Bryce Young play. And Bryce Young, out of those 3, looked like he was the best. He looked the most poised, even though he had a couple moments where he kind of freaked out a little bit, where really the defense did a good job in coverage, and he kind of panicked a little bit. He almost threw a pick six to Deontay Lawson. He almost threw a pick six to Deontay Lawson a little bit. He tried to go to the check down because everything was locked up, and he instinctively tried to go to the check down. And again, not Ian Jackson. Deontay Lawson was literally in front of the ball, and he dropped a pick six, and that was at the goal line situation as well. But I feel like Bryce Young overall did a pretty decent job. He was able to go through his progressions a little bit. He was able to, pretty much take what the defense kind of gave it to him in coverage. He was able to really expose some coverages. I know that there was a couple of broken plays in the secondary, and Bryce Young was able to take advantage of it. Most notably, the Cameron Latu catch, when Cameron Latu pretty much just ran up the seam. There wasn't anybody there. There really wasn't anybody there. There was pretty much just broken coverage, kind of just miscommunication, and Bryce Young was able to take advantage of that. We was able to also display Bryce Young's power. He has, he has the power. He has the velocity. Probably the most impressive thing about Bryce Young was his release. Bryce Young has a very quick release. Probably it's very similar to Tua's, if not maybe a little bit quicker than Tua's. But he has an extremely quick release. I will say the one hindrance for Bryce's Young game, and I talked about this during the live stream, was his height. There were some plays where his height was the reason why he couldn't really make those throws, and he had to really try to literally try to look over his offensive line, and he kind of overflowed a couple of passes. But besides that, I feel like Bryce Young, for his first time as the full starter in a spring, not just in a spring game, because he had a couple of scrimmages where we heard that he did pretty well. But in front of 50,000 fans, I felt like he did a pretty decent job. Remember, he also had a catch that was dropped in the back of the end zone by Trayshawn Holden, and that was because Bryce Young was able to kind of elude defenders, was able to kind of use his elusiveness inside the pocket, slide in and out of the pocket. And again, Trayshawn Holden dropped the touchdown pass. But Bryce Young, again, not the greatest stats in the world. I think it was around 60 or maybe 61%. But I feel like overall wise, he had a pretty decent day. Paul Tyson was okay. I mean, the one thing you saw Paul Tyson's size, you saw his power. He probably has the strongest arm on the team. The power, he was able to really fit passes that we didn't really see Bryce Young do. I think most notably the comeback route to Ijia Hall, where he was able to just throw a rocket. He was able to zip a pass and again threw it right to the boundary where that's exactly where you're supposed to throw it to. And Ijia Hall made a spectacular catch. And I think the funny part is IG, I don't know why I keep calling him Ijia. IG took the wrong release point. If he would have took the release point to the inside and then was able to again run the route correctly like he did when he released to the outside, it would have been a more comfortable throw for Paul Tyson to throw it to. But because IG had the wrong release, it made the throw a lot harder. And I feel like that was probably a way more impressive throw than I think a lot of people kind of give Paul Tyson credit to, of trying to give his receiver the best opportunity, trying to give his receivers really the best opportunity possible. But, Paul Tyson had some moments where he freaked out in the pocket, like when the pocket was collapsing, he would just take off. If the one read wasn't there, he was gone. And again, you get touched one time by a defensive end, you're done. But even if there was a real game scenario, it wouldn't even do too much. Paul Tyson, I think for the most part, was a little bit raw. You can tell his mechanics were a little bit raw. He kind of threw off his back foot a little bit. He needs to, pretty much improve his footwork. But besides that, I feel like Paul Tyson, for the most part, had a decent day. The third stringer, Braxter, I don't know too much about him, but man, he had a couple of really good passes, man. I know the one pass on a go route to IG, that was impressive, especially the catch that IG made. There was another throw as well. I can't really recall it, but I'm pitching it in my mind right now. But yeah, he made a couple of good throws. Now he did throw some picks. I think he threw a couple of picks. I know Kool-Aid McKinstry definitely caught an interception as well. But for the most part, I was pretty pleased with the quarterback room. We all knew that the defense is going to be the key strength for this year. Last 3 years really, it was the offense. This year, it is going to be the defense. So I was pretty impressed, honestly, with our quarterback room. And again, hopefully it can improve. I expect it to improve by the time that first game happens against the Miami Hurricanes. But I definitely feel like Bryce Young was the best quarterback out of the bunch. I know this is a little bit of a long video, but, hey, it is what it is. Some other keys. I think the last key takeaway I want to talk about is definitely the edge rushers. I know I talked about the defensive line a little bit, but that's more the interior defensive line. The edge rushers were phenomenal today. I mean, Chris Braswell tore it up. Nobody couldn't block Chris Braswell coming off the edge. He was extremely impressive. The fact that he was able to use a combination of speed, he was able to use a combination of power. Just to give you guys an example, I mean, one example was that when he came strictly off the edge, and I think it was Damian George. Damian George tried to block him, came screaming off the edge, was able to get a strip fumble. I think the one of the other sacks was that against Damian George, the same tackle, he overpowered him. He took an inside release, overpowered him, borscht the crap out of him, was able to make a sack. I mean, Chris Braswell had 3 sacks today, but he screamed today, not literally, but he screamed today that he's a guy that deserves to be on the football field and that he's a guy that deserves to be on the rotation. I think the scary part is that Will Anderson, who was their best pass rusher, didn't even play today. And people continue to forget that Chris Braswell is a former 5-star recruit. And Chris Braswell definitely showed today that he was a beast. True freshman Ian Jackson was pretty impressive. I didn't expect that to happen, man. Ian Jackson, I mean, there was a couple times where he just came off my screen and he came off the edge. I'm like, who was that? Is that Drew Sanders? Is that Quindarius Robinson? No, it was Ian Jackson, true freshman early in relief. I thought that Ian Jackson had a pretty good day screaming off the edge. But yeah, Christopher Allen was able to make a couple of plays. I mean, he was able to make some plays. Just the edge rushers dominated today. I mean, we was able to see so much depth from the edge rushing position. Also, just real quick, the inside linebacking position was pretty impressive as well. I thought Jackson Bratton pretty much had a decent day. Another true freshman, Deontay Lawson. Again, he almost had a pick 6, but this is a guy that was he was the starting linebacker. Now that's because Christian Harris was gone. But with Jalen Moody, a person that's expected to run kind of run the defense a little bit, I thought that Jalen Moody had a good day. Again, 32, replacing Dylan Moses. Deontay Lawson had a very, very productive day as well. He was able to come in there, fill some gaps. He was able to recognize plays. He had a really, really good day as well. So I was extremely impressed with the inside linebacking position. And just think about this. A couple years ago, this was the weakness of the team. Now, this might be one of the key core strengths of your football team. That is extremely impressive. The secondary was really good as well. The secondary was decent. I'm not going to say they were really good. Josh Jobe concerned me. I will say that. Josh Jobe concerned me because he's expected to be the number 1 corner. Josh Jobe concerned the hell out of me. Trayshawn Holden destroyed him. When he faced against IG Hall pretty much took his lunch money. Josh Jobe concerned me today. Brandon Turnage, I thought Brandon Turnage had a good day. You rarely heard Kool-Aid's name, so I think that's a good thing that no one really threw to his side. I think they threw it to his side a couple times when he was matched up against IG, and the other one was a high-low concept where Kool-Aid picked off the pass from Braxler. So that was really, really good to see a guy like Kool-Aid, who's a 5-star true freshman. He was able to come in there and make some plays. Ronald Williams did okay. Didn't have the best day in the world. I don't think we really saw too much of Kyrie Jackson. I don't even think he even played at all. But overall wise, I feel like the secondary was, at least the corners were okay. I was more impressed with our safeties than I was with our corners. But yeah, I felt like Brandon Turnage and Kool-Aid had the best days out of all the corners. And that's really, really good to show some more depth in our secondary. Again, Malachi Moore didn't play. I don't think Brian Branch even played today. But again, I was worried about the secondary. In hindsight, I am still kind of worried about it because who's going to be that Patrick Surtain, Trayvon Diggs guy? Who's going to be that number 1 corner? That it's spring, so it's too early to find out. But still, that is a little bit of a concern for me going into the fall season. I thought running backs, just real quick, I thought the running backs played okay. There wasn't really anyone that really popped off my screen. All the running backs for the most part were good in the receiving game. Keelan Robinson was expected to be a slot receiver. You were kind of able to see that he can run between the tackles. You can use him in the slot. You can use him just coming off the backfield. Jace McKellen had 7 catches for like 670 yards. We saw Ronald Williams be used a lot in the screen game. So, yeah, I felt like the running backs were pretty decent. Not anyone was eye-popping. Brian Robinson didn't play. But overall-wise, I was pretty pleased with the running backs. The tight ends are loaded. Tight end position, real quick, guys, is absolutely loaded. Cameron Latu showed his athleticism. Again, now, I don't know if he's the guy that you can use in the slot, kind of like a Jaleel Billingsley, who also had a good day as well. But he's more of an in-the-line guy that's just an athlete. Now, Major Tennyson is going to be the run blocker. He is going to be your run blocker. He's going to be your run blocker that you can occasionally use in the receiving game, kind of that Hale Hentage type of role. But if Alabama decides to run 12 personnel and you put Jaleel Billingsley in the slot with Cameron Latu as an in-the-line tight end in the receiving game, look out, guys. Look out, because Alabama is going to be absolutely dangerous. I was extremely impressed today with the tight end room. The last thing I want to say, guys, is that there's a couple things that I was a little concerned about. Number one was the kicking game. Will Reichert was 2 for 5. That's a little bit of a concern for me. This is a guy that went 14 for 14. Now, people say don't worry about it. But here's the thing, guys, is that confidence matters. Momentum matters. Will Reichert had all the momentum, all the confidence in the world last year. This game showed that he can lose some of that. And it was really the second miss that kind of was like, well, not the second miss. It was the third miss. It was that 33-yard missed field goal that kind of screamed to me, okay, this could be a problem in the season, because at that point he's lacking confidence. The 51-yarder, the 52-yarder, and the 48-yarder, that's understandable. Those are hard kicks. Those are difficult kicks. But when you're missing 33-yard field goals, that's a concern to me. So that's something that I want to see fixed. Right there is the kicking game. That screams to me lack of confidence. So hopefully that can be cleared up by the time fall camp gets around. My second concern is the offensive line. The offensive line they weren't bad. They were mediocre. You saw some good things. Evan Neal, who was injured but who also played in this game, was probably the best lineman on the team. We saw some of the true freshmen play. Terrence Ferguson got destroyed. Tommy Brockermeyer got destroyed. James Brockermeyer actually had a pretty decent day for the most part. Darren Delcourt had an okay day. But the offensive line, they got outclassed by the defensive line today. They did not. The edge rushers killed the tackles. Damian George, Javon Cohen off the edge. Those guys got killed today. So the offensive line is not that big of a concern, because I do believe that this will be fixed. I do believe that this will be cleaned up. But it is obvious that the defensive line and that the defense is the key strength, and it was on display. We've been hearing for 3 scrimmages now, including yesterday, that the defensive line is by far the better unit compared to the offensive line in the trenches. And that was just on display for us to view yesterday. But overall wise, I was pleased with the scrimmage. It's good to have spring football back. It's good to see fans in attendance. Hopefully everyone will be safe, because no one had a mask on. So unless everyone is vaccinated, I hope everyone is definitely safe. But overall wise, I was pleased with this game. Very, very pleased. Saw some good things, saw some bad things. But at least we know now, we can now judge a little bit going into the summer about how this Alabama football team could progress. I thought the talent was on display. I thought that there was a lot of good things, some bad things, but at least we know now a little bit what's going on going into the 2021 football season. So anyway, guys, that's all I got for you guys at least today. A long video. I get it. If you guys stuck around me for this long, thank you guys so much for viewing. Again, if you guys want more Jan Sports content, make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow me on my social media pages. I'll have them linked below the description so you guys can always stay updated. And that is it. So I'm going to stop talking now. This is Jan Sports, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.